What's up, everybody? Joe Everest, the fence expert. I'm here at the beautiful Greenbrier in West Virginia for the Chain Link Fence Manufacturers Institute 2023 summer meeting. They've lined up some table talks with industry professionals to talk about the fencing industry as it relates to the CLFMI, and I think you guys might like to sneak peek on it. Without further ado, let's go check them out. Hey guys, today's video is actually going to be an excerpt from a recent panel discussion. If you'd like to watch the full panel discussion in its entirety, we'll have the link in the description below. In this clip, we're talking to Andrea Hogan and Jeff Van Buren about the durability of chain link. I think it's worth having a conversation that in regards to chain link fencing has been around for a while. I would view it as the tried and true, the trusted and reliable perimeter security choice. We have, just in one example, so we have some fence we installed out at our fairgrounds. My granddad installed it in the early 50s. Now, it absolutely looks like it was installed in the early 50s. It's been backed into, it's seen some wear and tear. But I think it's worth a discussion in that chain link really is the reliable choice in terms of maintenance and just strength and upkeep.
It's funny that you should bring that up. In 2012, the Northeast endured Superstorm Sandy, and my grandfather installed a piece of chain link fence that just went from the house out to the dock on the bay. And that storm was devastating. We had about 13 inches of water in the house, but that fence still stood. There were kayaks up against it. There were air conditioning units up against it. We pulled a couple jet skis off of it. And when we did, that fence looked like it was brand new, frankly.
Sure.
Yep.
Yeah, when I got into the fence industry, I remember I spoke to somebody who had been in the industry for a long time, and they always spoke of chain link fence as the fence that you set it and forget it. Really, truly. So I hope people take that into account for sure.
Well, I think that's worth talking about in that there's some other fencing styles that are presented as like the maintenance-free solutions. And I think chain link really is the original maintenance-free fencing solution. I mean, think about what upkeep does a chain link fence require? We get asked sometimes about lifespans, how long can I realistically expect my fence to last? And our answer is, well, and I'll reference this fence at the fairgrounds. I say that was one of our first fences we installed in the early 50s. So it hasn't fallen down yet, but I can let you know when it does. We're still ongoing testing on the fence. Next up, a very interesting conversation about high security fence, ballistic ratings and such, with Barry Mars and Mike Saltagerald. Why is ballistic testing of chain link fencing beneficial?
Well, sometimes when you look at, in military size wise, people, when we're getting shot at, right? We go behind barriers and we look for something so we can hopefully stop from getting shot at. When we took the 5/8 6 gauge and the 3/8, we put silhouettes behind there. Yes, frags went through, but frags don't kill. Sure. Bullets kill. So that's why it's so important for ballistic.
Well, and I think it's also important to just display that it can be, a ballistic deterrent. Which is hard to think about, right? For fencing, when you think of normal chain link fencing, now, when I say that, you're thinking probably a 2-inch mesh and all that, but you can specify chain link to be more of a ballistic tested solution to a problem.
Oh yeah, especially when it comes to critical infrastructure. When you look at critical infrastructure, you want it, and you have to follow the specs, And then if you see the specs, and one of the things that I've realized in the 25 years in business, the specs were so antiquated when they first wrote them. We need to change them. We need to be a part of it. Everybody here in this room is an ambassador. You have your connections, not only through the developers and the architects, engineers, but to Congress. In 1933, Congress passed Hoover, who actually was the first president to come here to Greenbrier, passed the American Act. And it didn't get ratified until 1982, when they actually included transportation. So we need to lobby more towards that.
All right, guys, for the third clip, it's an excerpt from a conversation I had with Bill Peterson and Brian McMillan, where we were discussing some aesthetic upgrades to chain link fencing. Let's talk a little bit about options that are available. So it can contribute to the LEED certification, but we talked a little bit yesterday about there's a thought that they want the fence to be aesthetically pleasing, right? And I think when people think about chain link fence, they think about just a straight galvanized, it's shiny, it looks like metal, right? And I think one thing that needs to be considered is there's obviously options outside of that, right? We're talking about vinyl coated. Now, when we're talking about an extruded product, we could be talking about extruded to bonded, fused bonded, fusion bonded, that sort of thing. Bill, could you walk us through the differences between extruded bonded, fusion bonded?
Yes, with an extruded material, you've got a wire that you've got a lot of vinyl on typically a smaller wire. And where that works out well is in residential situations. You might have a 12.5 gauge, 13 gauge wire. You can put a lot of vinyl on that with the extruder. And when I say a lot of vinyl, that's about 22 mils on each side of that. So it's fairly thick. The difference between extruded and a bonded, or extruded and adhered as we call it, is you put a glue underneath that. So that holds that vinyl on there a little bit better. For technical people, if you ever noticed a knuckle, when they bend the knuckle over, sometimes that vinyl will pull back a little bit and you'll see like a little shiny silver part of the galvanized wire that's underneath. With the bonded, extruded and bonded, it holds that on there, so it keeps it, keeps it from doing that. And then the fused and bonded, that is a thinner coating, but it's on much better than the extruded. With that material, you can cut the vinyl off one side, and you should not be able to peel it off on the other side. So those are the differences. For us, we like a fused and bonded because when you're dealing with heavier core wires, like a 9 gauge or even a 6 gauge core, it's easier for our team to weave that material. When you're talking extruded, you're taking a 9 gauge core, brings it up to a 6 gauge finish, and there used to be some people that would make a 6 gauge core with a 3 gauge finish. That wire is about as big as your thumb, but a lot of that stuff is just the vinyl itself, and it makes it kind of difficult to weave.
All right, guys, for the fourth and final clip, I sat down with Steve Peters to discuss the questions contractors should be asking and where they can find additional informational resources in regards to chain link fencing materials. So how would you encourage contractors to seek out more information, or what information do you think contractors should be seeking out?
Well, I think contractors should be professionals. In other words, they should look at the CLFMI website, look at the information that's available from the AFA, the American Fence Association, and understand where they're buying their product and where their product comes from. One of the things that our organization, CLFMI, has going for it is that we're all professionals. We are invested in the products that we manufacture. We understand the specifications. We can help educate a contractor as to what's available in terms of color, in terms of the proper specifications that apply to all these products. And you're going to get a product that isn't something off the shelf in a home center that might have come from God knows where. These are products manufactured in the USA. You can really rely upon both your vendor, but ask your vendor, where does the product come from the manufacturer?
Absolutely. And in talking about that, we talked about earlier about the looking out, seeking out, whether it's manufacturers or distributors that do work with CLFMI, that are members of CLFMI, because those members recognize that there are specifications. Not to say anything about anything, but sometimes you find materials in the marketplace that may not meet specifications.
Yeah, and a little kept secret is the organization that writes the standards, ASTM, which is referenced in a lot of the documents from CLFMI. It costs $75 to be a member of the ASTM, a contractor. For that $75, you have access to standards that would cost you hundreds of dollars if you downloaded them individually. So this is a really easy solution for a contractor. Joining STM, you get to see what's being discussed, you get to put in your 2 cents, object or vote for, and you have access to all these standards basically for your $75.
All right, guys, I appreciate you tuning in. If you've got additional questions that we haven't answered, feel free to drop them in the comments below and I'll work on getting them answered in the next video. For now, I'm Joe Everest, the fence expert, reminding you that good fences make good neighbors. I'll see you next time.